Thanks, Gary. Thanks for taking the time to do the interview, and all of us are very keen to find out more about the great Gary Falk. Used to be Swadhin, and I wanted to just go back to your own birth in the spiritual life and what got you started spiritually, and why you were looking for a spiritual path.
Well, first of all, thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it. You know, it's very interesting to be on the other side of the fence, so to speak. You know, I'm doing the interviews, and now you're interviewing me, and this is, you know, every day is exciting because, you know, new experiences. So let's start off. The question was, what started me on the spiritual path? Well, there were two factors. One was I was very depressed and miserable in my life. I think that's the best. I think that's one of the best ways to start seeking, because if you're happy, you know, doing whatever you're doing in your life, in your job, with your family, whatever, your girlfriend, boyfriend, you know, then there's no point in seeking anything. But when you're really miserable and depressed, like I was like desperate. And luckily, and just fortunately, I wrote about this a little bit on Facebook. I was in the Army Reserve, and I was stationed in South Carolina, and I walked into the
How old are you?
what?
How old are you at this point, Gary? How old are you
I
at
was
this
out
point?
of, okay, I came out of college. I was about, yeah, about 21 years old, 21, 22 years old. And so I was in South Carolina in this Army base, and I walked into a little library, and who knows, there was a copy of the Bhagavad Gita there. I picked it up, and bingo, it just resonated. I started reading about Krishna and Arjuna, and you know, blah blah blah. But one thing that caught my attention was at some point in that story, Krishna says, I think Krishna says, you know, find that one thing by which all things are known and by which all your problems are solved. You know, just the one thing. I said, bingo. You know, that's it. So and anyway, that started me off. So from there, that I said, I got to find that one thing, the one thing that's going to solve all my problems. That's going to, oh, you know, that's going to do it for me. So that was the big.
Do you mean your passion in life, Gary, or do you mean it was about finding God or something else?
Well, it was about finding whatever it was, the truth, I guess, you know, of your existence. I forget how it was phrased in the Gita, but it was like, you know, find that one thing, that one bit of truth that's going to open everything. You know, at that point, I wasn't too interested in God. I wasn't believing in God, but what I read about, you know, finding the truth, that resonated with me.
Okay, and so you're in the Army Reserve and you begin this search. And how the heck do you find an Indian spiritual master in Carolina?
Well, I didn't. I came back to New York. You know, I was only there for a few months. I was in the reserve, so I came back to New York, and I, you know, was started exploring, you know, spiritual bookstores. So I was in this spiritual bookstore near the UN. It was on East 53rd Street. It's called East West, and I think it's still there. And it's a little bookstore run by the Theosophical Society. Anyway, I walked in there. I'm in there, and I met this woman who was a disciple of Sri Chinmoy, and I'm looking over books, and somehow, I don't know, she said something to me, or I said something to her, and next thing you know, she's telling me about the guru coming to the UN every week, and why don't I check him out? And I said, well, you know, hey, I'm looking for a guru. Oh, another thing was, I had read in another book, and it would really impressed me, was, hey, you can't find the truth on your own. You have to have a guru. You have to have a teacher. And I really took that to heart. So I was out, you know, I said, I got to find a guru someplace. And bingo, I ran into this woman. I forget her name. She didn't stay in the center that long. She left, but I stayed. But she was my, you know, entree into the center. So she told me about guru coming to the UN. I didn't go to the UN, but I wound up going up to Rudra and Samarpana's place in Norwalk, Connecticut on Monday nights. And that started me off. I hooked up a ride, or I forget how it happened, but I hooked up a ride with Geeta. I remember Geeta was a good friend of mine from the center. She was living in New York City, and I hooked up with her, and we went up on Monday nights, and then I became a disciple. So this was 1970.
It's quite funny because I spent a lot of my time staying in New York with Caton, which was Rudrara Samapana's son, and he modelled his life on you. I will say, I will say this: you were his hero,
Who,
and I
Kate?
was always hearing about Swadhin, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I love Caton. I mean, everybody loved Caton. He was like the cute kid personality. He loved the theater. He was an actor. He was a comedian. Yeah, I loved Caton. Caton was great. I didn't know he thought of me that highly. But anyway, great. That's good to hear. That's news.
Okay. Some people have given me some questions to ask you. Ian Johnson, you remember Shundown, and Nicholas Anderson, Tom Taylor, Stephen Bright, and so on. So I'm going to work through some of them. Evie gave me a whole lot that are absolutely fantastic. But
Oh,
I wanted to know a little bit more about what. Go on. You
no, I
want
was
to
just
say?
going to say, listen, this is this interview can go on as long as as long as it takes. I'm not going to cut myself off, or you.
Well, what Ian told me was that you I joined with Kishore and Prashanto. I don't know whether you remember them in Melbourne. They were from,
Prashanta,
and Shundown was
that name
in.
rings a bell. What year was that?
Oh well, I joined in '79, but they joined in I would say '70 or something like that, maybe
Right,
'74.
because
Yeah,
I was there from
'74 they would have
7.
been. Yeah.
Yeah, I was there from 70 to 80. So yeah, Prashanta, I know that name, and I met a lot of Australian disciples. Um, and so, okay, great.
Well, what happened? What I was going to say, Gary, was when I joined, the whole centre seemed to be in mourning that Swadhin had left, and that everything had gone, downhill a little bit as far as the fun in the centre was concerned. But anyway, I wanted to say, Ian was said to me that you seem to have a very special relationship with Guru in that you seem to be getting away with stuff that other people didn't get away with, and I wondered how your relationship with Guru kind of developed, how it started and how it evolved.
Well, it started a little bit shaky because, as Guru said to the disciples at the house one day, and he said it a few times. He said, you hold me in reverential awe. He used that expression, reverential awe. You don't love me. You hold me in this awe. And that was my experience too. I was a little in awe of him. There was a little bit of fear there. But it turned out that, I'm a comedian. And Guru loved that fact because I didn't know this, but somehow he liked people getting up and telling stories, and so he would say, who has a story to tell? Who has a story to tell? So I'd get up, I'd tell a story, and I was a big hit for a while. I was like probably one of the really first comedians, center comedians. Later on, other people took over and they surpassed me, and they did great things like the Swanson brothers and Abaddon, but in the beginning, I was like the main comedian there, and Guru really appreciated that because he wanted to pick up the mood of the center. There was people were getting depressed. In fact, there was a law against depression. If you got depression, you were depressed, you got reported, you got kicked out of the center or put on probation. So anyway, so Guru liked the fact that I was a comedian. I told stories. I was funny. And so, all of a sudden, my stock rose in the center. I didn't have this thing planned, but it just happened. So I was in good shape, and I got away with a lot of stuff because, again, like the court jester can say things to the king that the ministers can't say. So I would jab Guru a lot in my routines, and he seemed to like it, and so I would go further, jab him a lot. But you couldn't do that. Couldn't do that seriously, or because other people, a few times. Mahalakshmi, once made a comment, tried to joke with Guru, and he didn't like it at all. But it just didn't go over very well, and so I was like the court jester, so I could get away with the stuff up to a point.
Up to a point, yeah. I I know that a lot of your jokes were about the gopis at the house. You know, that you're often referred to some of the girls up at the house as the gopis, and wondered whether you had an inkling early on that something else was going on.
No, not at all. I mean, listen. That whole thing blew my mind when it finally emerged that Guru was, having sex with these girls. When I was leaving the center in 1980, that's when Savika's story broke. I heard about Savika's story. And at the time, I was so hell-bent on getting out of the center, it didn't even like kind of register. It was like, well, I don't know, whatever. I can't be. But to get back to the question, no, I didn't have an inkling. I didn't have a clue. I wouldn't have believed it myself if somebody said to me, because at the time there was a big scandal going on. There was a very close disciple who lived across the street from Guru. What was her name? I can't think of her name. Suparna. That was one of his early, sexual contacts. So there was a big brouhaha. The kids were throwing rocks through the windows. But at the time, the story was, well, they were angry, and Suparna left because Guru said he was greater than Jesus, and they were Christians or blah, blah, blah. But it was all about the sex thing. But totally. I couldn't fathom that. I wouldn't have believed it at the time. No, yeah. No clue.
Can we back up a little bit? I should have. I want to come back and talk a little bit more about you leaving. But while you were in the center, let's say the first 5 years or 6 or 7 years, did you have a wonderfully positive experience and you enjoyed being with Guru and you were having great meditations and all that sort of stuff?
Yes. My 10-year discipleship went in two phases. Number one, the first phase, I would say the first 5 or 6 years, almost totally positive, except I had personal problems. I was depressed. I have a history of depression, serious depression. I was even diagnosed as being bipolar, but I didn't have too many manic episodes. I was mostly depressed. And so I was battling that, but otherwise, that was my personal burden, but otherwise, my center experience was entirely positive, almost entirely positive. I had a great time. I had a great relationship with Guru. He seemed to genuinely like me, which was, that's a big boost, because other people had different experiences with that, So, and I had a great experience. The smile of the beyond was one of the greatest experiences of my life, including everything that's happened since.
Can you tell us a little bit about the Smile, and Gary? Tell us how it got started. I know for disciples, the Smile became a real icon of the center and a place that we all met. But I remember you in a film called Day in the Life, and you were talking to Vidhu, and you were giving Vidhu an ice cream cone, and I just remember you talking about that he can't believe how big this ice cream is, and it's blowing his mind that I'm giving him the biggest ice cream in the world. And I just remember that, and I can hear your voice, and I remember how many times I heard that film being played. But can you tell us how the Smile got started?
Yeah, when I came to the center, I was working on Wall Street, and I wasn't happy. And at that time, Guru was having disciples start the Divine Enterprises on Parsons Boulevard, and I asked him if I could be, he said, who would like to be, start a business? And I said, yeah, I want to, because I wanted to get out of my job. So he told me to open up an ice cream parlor. So that was the beginning of that. We found a location on Parsons Boulevard next to Guru's Stationery and Perfection in the Head World, and Garland of Divinity's Love was located there at the time. I was right next door to Conan's store. And so that's how it started. I started an ice cream parlor, but quickly realized it was Alo Devi, actually, who came in one day. She goes, you need something more in here than ice cream. You need to make some sandwiches or something. And I said, that's a crazy idea. But it turned out to be true, because ice cream by itself wasn't enough to keep me going during the winter. So gradually I brought in I had a lot of help from disciples, including Premananda, who was in the restaurant business. I knew nothing about anything, but I had people helping me. Premananda was a big help. Abedan was a big help. Chirantan was a big help. He did a lot of work in the store. So the people came in from all over and helped out, and Premananda told me, how to start, doing the food business. So I gradually, brought in sandwiches and soups and salads and juices and stuff like that, and it was a real hub because we had two schools across the street. So we had a lot of Guru liked it because a lot of people from the neighborhood came in and saw we were regular people, not just weirdos wearing saris and dhotis. So we're like regular people, we could talk to them about whatever, like regular people. So it was a good interface between the disciple community and the regular community. So the smile was key, and I was having a great time. I was having a ball. For 5 years or 6 years, I was like riding high, except as I say, battling depression here and there, but for the most part, having a great experience. And then don't forget, we had Mahavishnu, and we had Devadeep, Carlos Santana, and Purushottama, Lex Hicks, and we had some big, heavy-duty people. And we thought, man, we're going to transform the world here. Roberta Flack. But she didn't get too involved. But, many people came by, so it was, it was exciting. It was an exciting time. I'm still excited.
And just to back up a little bit, have you thinking about your depression and through those years? Did you arrive at a reason why you were getting those sorts of feelings?
Wait, I didn't get that. Why I was what, depressed?
I just want to I want to explore about your depression. Why were you depressed? Were you unhappy with what was going on in the center, or unhappy?
Well,
with
yeah. Well, then you know what? Depression is a hard thing to explain because I don't know why I had been depressed before I was in the center. So the center didn't make me depressed, but I got really depressed. After a while, I sort of hit a place where I plateaued out. It's like that honeymoon. You join the center, and you have the honeymoon effect.
Yeah.
Going great, and then all of a sudden you start to plateau, and then it's like every day becomes the same. I can't explain the depression, but I really went into a funk, and I was going to leave, and I went to see Guru. I was like, I got to leave, and he said, well, he gave me the one incarnation line, famous line. He said, look, you've had many lifetimes, and you have just give me this one incarnation. So I said okay, and then he said okay, now go out and put on a play and run 7 more miles a day, and like load you up with stuff so you don't have to think. And it kind of worked. I went back to the store, it worked, and then that picked me up for another few years until I hit my I hit the peak, I hit the turning point where I said I got to get out of here. It's this ain't it.
Well, let me ask you one more thing while you're still in the center, because another experience I had coming just after you left was circus. I never liked the circus, and people would say, well, when Swadhin was the ringmaster, the circus was fantastic. So Evie asked a question, and I'm backing her up. Was the circus, when you were there, any good, or was it as bad as it always was?
It was as bad as it always was. Yeah, I hated the circus. I hated the circus. The first time we did the circus, it was fun. It's like the first time you do anything, it's fun. When we did the first time, we had the big parade for Guru. It was fun. But some experiences, like once is enough. And the circus was, to me, pure torture. Because don't forget, I'm running the Smile of the Beyond. I'm working like I was working 7 days in the beginning. I cut back to 6. I'm working like 12, 14, 16 hours a day. Then I had to do the circus. We were practicing up in JFK High School in the Bronx. It was torture. Torture. I hated the circus. I like being ringmaster. I like being the ringmaster because that's my personality. I like being that. Give me the microphone. I want to get up on stage. But the whole thing, I couldn't stand it.
And maybe we can talk a little bit about your name and what it means and how you got your name.
Well, my name, that was a big thing because, in the center, getting your spiritual name, at least when I was there, was the highlight of your career almost, because, not everybody got spiritual names. But if you hung in and you were a good disciple, eventually you'd get your name in a year or 6 months or 3 years or whatever. Anyway, so I was there for I don't know how long, about a year, and Guru said, you're going to get your spiritual name. and he gave me the name Swadhin, which means divine independence. Man, did that ring a bell? And it still does, because
Yeah, exactly.
I feel honestly divinely independent. I mean,
Yeah.
I connect with that. Now I understand, you don't want to lock into any particular thing that's going to define you, but if anything defines me, I think that does divine independence. I totally relate to it. And when people call me Swadhin now, I still get, you know what? I still get a thrill. I still get a thrill when people call me Swadhin.
That's lovely.
A few people do,
That's
but
lovely.
yeah, it's great.
And how did it happen? Was it a great experience with the clouds parting and all that sort of thing, or
No,
how did you get your name?
no. It was nothing dramatic. Guru said, okay, Friday night, after the function, come over and you'll get your spiritual name over at the house. You go over to the house, and then Nami was there recording everything he was saying, transcribing or whatever, taking notes, and what he'll do, he'll calls you up, and then he gives you a blessing, and he goes, your soul's name is Swadhin, and then he gives you which means divine independence, and then you get a little slip of paper, which I lost. I can't burn it like Yoko. I lost it, but I wouldn't burn. But no, but I appreciate what he did. Believe me. But no, there was nothing dramatic. Oh, then you have to go home that night before you go to sleep. You chant your name 100 times, which I did. It was no special experience, but it definitely I connected with it, and it grew on me, and it got better and better. But I totally became Swadhin, and the Gary character was like, hey, that's like ancient history. It took me a while to get back into being Gary again. Even after I left the center, I didn't want to be Gary. I still wanted to be Swadhin, but now I can be both, and I can be neither. So it's good.
And as far as your meditations were concerned, then what were your highest meditations? Were they there in front of Guru at the house, or how was your meditation life?
Well, first of all, my meditations were nil. People who were lived close to Guru and did a lot of stuff, I think the attitude was, hey, we don't have to meditate. My attitude was like, hey, I would do a perfunctory meditation like for 5 minutes in my shrine before I went to the store at 5:30 in the morning to start the home fries. So I said, hey, listen, I don't have to meditate, because Guru's handling all that, and he said as much, So I never meditated really per se. I had a few very dramatic spiritual experiences in Guru's presence, especially one time up in Canada. But no, I never really meditated. I used to sit there, look at the transcendental picture, and then start thinking, oh, what soup am I going to make today? I'm thinking like, oh, I'm going to make split pea soup today, or I'm going to make mushroom barley soup. I'm looking at the transcendental picture, and then I said, I got to get out of here. So yeah, meditation, no. I forget meditation. You know what? I'm meditating.
Tell us about
now. I want to say one thing about meditation. I'm meditating now more and better than I ever did when I was in the center. But I felt in the center I didn't have to. That Guru, and as I say, Guru kind of said as much. Don't worry, I'm taking care of you, inwardly. So I said, all right. You take care of me inwardly. I'll make the home fries, and I'll make the soups, and you take care of me inwardly. That's all. That was my deal with Guru.
Yeah, that's great. Tell us about this experience in Canada, though. We want to hear that.
Well, I don't remember. It might have been, I don't know if it was Ottawa or Toronto. We went up for some occasion. We went up to Canada quite a bit for the concert and everything. Anyway, we were in a motel or something. That was having a meditation, just the disciples. I think Mukti was there, and Maitreyi and the Canadian disciples. I don't know what happened, but we're looking there at Guru, and all of a sudden, and it wasn't only me. I remember Ashok, Chris Poison, never showed too much devotion outwardly. He was like, prostrating whatever was going on, something came down, and I just spontaneously did the same thing. I just said, oh my God, this is like, I'm in the presence of God here. I just want, like, well, flat out, full prostration. And that's not my style. I do one of these things, yeah, it's all right, but like, the full prostration, oh man. It was just a divine experience. I don't know. Nothing was said about it. It was just like we were all very much moved. I wasn't the only one. And so whatever happened that time, it was just like, oh my God, I'm in the presence of God. And like, it doesn't get any better than that. And I had a few experiences like that. That's amazing. I had a few experiences like that in different times, but it's like that, people are in the center for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. They're not there for nothing. Even though there's a lot of other stuff going on, you're saying like, oh man, what's he doing that for? The Nobel Prize, Model Circus, Esraj Conference. But there are enough of those experiences that say, well, I'm staying here because this is where it's really at. So those kind of experiences kept me in the center for 10 years, even though I had peaked around 5 years, and I was like saying, I gotta get out of here at some point. I can't stay here for the rest of my life behind the counter with a smile of beyond. No way.
And so, what actually happened then when you left the center? Was it Guru saying to you, also it's time to go, or he begged you to stay, or what happened?
No, I left on my own. I left because of the Alo Devi losing her realization story. One day around 1976, Adi Rata, we used to call him the tall man, very tall, came into the store in his dhoti and kurta, all in white, and he leaned over the counter and he said, listen, Guru sent me to tell you, and I'm telling other people too, that Alo lost her realization. Up to that point, Alo was the divine mother, equivalent of Guru, whatever. And he said she lost her realization because she was jealous of Ranjana and Lavanya. And so Guru wants to know, whose side you're going to be on, in effect. And I said, well, I'm with Guru, I'm not stupid. And I didn't have a real thing going for Alo Devi anyway, because Alo Devi started to become a little off. And we were making fun of her, in fact, because she'd be walking up and down Parsons Boulevard talking to herself. I mean, a lot of stuff. Anyway, but in the back of my mind, something clicked, and I said, you know what? Lost her realization. What is that all about? You go from divine mother of the universe, totally enlightened, to like you're jealous of the girls to get more attention. Anyway, that broke the bubble. Okay, but it took me another 4 years to get out. So anyway, I was waiting to make my exit. And certain things, my whole life was in the center. My store, my livelihood, my friends. I didn't have anything on the outside. But one day I was out running my 7 miles, and I got an inner message as clear as a bell. It's time to leave now. And I knew that was it. The inner guru, or whatever you want, the Sadguru, whatever you want to call it, I spoke to me. I mean, it was time to leave. This is 4 years later, 1980. So I told Guru I had to leave, and he got it. It was not the other time I told Guru I wanted to leave. He talked me out of it because no, stick it out. Give me one incarnation. Put on a play, go running. Don't worry about it. This time it was like he didn't try to talk me out of it because it was like crystal clear. I said I'm going, and he wound up.
So was it the inner Swadhin talking to you, or was it Guru talking to you, telling you to leave? Do you think?
It was the inner being, the inner Swadhin, the inner Guru, the real self. I'm calling it. It was definitely my own true self saying, okay, now it's time for you to leave, and there was no question about it. Up until then, I was going back and forth. Well, am I going to leave? How am I going to leave? Where am I going to go? Who am I going to go with? And then everything unfolded. Bingo, and it was like smooth sailing. I left, and I went to. He said, okay, I said I'm leaving on the 26th. He said, okay, come over to the house before you go. The day I left, he went over to the house. He gave me $1,400 in cash, pulled that out of his pocket. He said, and I don't know what was said, not too much, and I gave him a bow. At this point, I didn't know anything about the sex stuff. That drove me crazy later on, but up until then, it was like, well, hey, look, we didn't connect, or it's time for me to go. So I left on good terms, because then I came back to the center, and I got even lifted up at one Progress Promise. I got lifted up on the thing, and I came back with my wife to Anand Brahma, and I was in good shape with the center until I found out about all the sex stuff, and then I went a little crazy.
You want to tell us about the crazy then? What happened in the years after?
Well, I was going back to the center and thinking, like, well, Guru, he's got something, maybe he's enlightened, but I didn't believe the Avatar story, but I figured, And then I think it was Tarak, the colonel, somehow turned me on to this Yahoo group that I now own. I took over. But Sam, Russell Bradshaw's son, started it in 2001 or something to show the other side of the center in Guru. So it's a Yahoo group. Anyway, so Tarak told me about it. I went on to the Yahoo. I started reading all these testimonials. Fulayla, Anne, who's sleeping in the other room now, and Savika, and I said, wow, bingo, this stuff is true. And then I spoke to Tarak, and he said, listen, I spoke to Savika. It's absolutely true. There's no doubt about it. He said, you can call her up. She said, you can call. I said, no, I don't have to. You say it's true. The colonel, if he says something is true, it's true. Anyway, but I'm telling you, but all these testimonies and the ones that came out later. So anyway, I felt betrayed. I got angry. I felt like, this is a betrayal. All the hypocrisy. We were on the set trying to be good boys and like Rob Bruner was saying, and Yoga Lloyd, you're trying to live up to this expectation and you're falling off the tree a little bit and you're getting back up and you're feeling guilty. And meanwhile, he's over there in the house. Anyway, so I got a little crazy. And now, of course, I mentioned this a few times, but after I left the center, I went back to drinking. The center saved me from alcoholism. The center saved me from alcoholism, but okay. I didn't drink for a number of years until we started drinking in the center, sneaking out to Steak and Brew and drinking martinis and having steaks. But the boys, some of whom are still in the center, so I can't mention any names, but everybody knows the Swanson brothers and the Baydon and Amal and everybody. So anyway,
you just mentioned all names.
I don't care. What are they going to do? Sue me? They already, the center already got me fired from my job, so I'm done. I'm retired. I don't care about anything. I'm sitting pretty now. So anyway, make a long story. What was I saying? So like I went back to drinking. I was like drinking, and then I got even crazier. I was like taking painkillers, and anyway, I got so crazy that I was on there. I'm just like angry, raging, venting, letting it all out. And on that Yahoo site, which is still going on, but all the action, the ex-disciple action has migrated over to Facebook. Our secret Facebook group that nobody knows about, but everybody knows about. Anyway, I went a little crazy, but you know what? And as somebody mentioned, I forget who it was on the group, really I was angry with myself. I I'm not angry with Guru. I'm not angry with anybody. I was angry with myself for like just, I don't know what. I just was venting. I was venting. But then I cooled out. Now I'm all love and all joy.
And in this period then between this is from 2001 you're saying, so what happened from 1980 to 2001?
Well, from 1980
from the time that you left.
From 1980 to 2001, lived the house. I got married. I went to Connecticut. I met a woman. We got married. I lived the life of a householder, but I continued my seeking. My seeking career never went quiet for too long. I would go I take little vacations, but basically I tried so many things. So for 20 years, I was just exploring all kinds of new stuff. You know, when I got out of the center, after I took a little break and did a lot of drinking, I started going back to, you know, exploring different spiritual paths and stuff. So I did a lot of stuff.
And anything that you want to share with us? So was there any of them that, you know, are standing out for you? Obviously, is non-duality.
Well, non-duality.
Stuff.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I took the S training. That was great. I did Course in Miracles. Rob Bruner mentioned that. Course in Miracles was great. What other thing? The Urantia book was great. But I think the greatest thing was in 1982, I discovered Nisargadatta's I Am That, and I became, you know, really totally plugged into non-duality, which from 1982 now to 2015, I have to say I've been a big fan of non-duality, Nisargadatta mainly, and all the people that, you know, came out of Nisargadatta's thing. So, you know, so that's where I'm at. I'm a non-dual guy.
Can you give us a little breakdown on what non-duality is?
Yeah, non-duality is simply, look, it's all one, there's no separation, and you are that. In other words, I'll put it this way. All there is consciousness or awareness, and you are that. And there's no separation between anything. Apparent individuals are only separate, apparently separate, but it's all connected. And I think that's the simplest way to put it. It's just, you know, oneness. You know, like an atom. You know, this whole thing with the electrons. One electron on this side of the world moves, and another electron on the other side of the world is affected. So it's that kind of thing. It's all interwoven, interconnected. Or Thich Nhat Hanh says interdependent. Everything is interdependent. There's nothing that has a separate existence.
So does that mean then that that we still have a oneness with Guru? We still have a oneness with you know, people in the center and all that sort of thing.
Yeah. You know, I have a oneness with Guru. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, how can
if you were to meet Guru now, what would you be saying to him?
I'd say, what was up with you? Well, you know, what's the story? What's the story? What's the whole avatar? What's the whole Kalki avatar thing? Like what was going on in your head? That I'd say, Guru, listen, answer one question. Okay, what was going on in your head when you were there and you go doing all these things, having sex with these girls and calling yourself the Kalki avatar? What was that all about? Can you tell me? That's what I'd say to him. And they'd say, oi, 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 undivine. But you know what? Guru, listen, you know what? Guru is just another guy. And all these people who think he's a god or he's a Kalki avatar, that's such bullshit. He's just another guy, you know. And I'd look him right in the eye, and I could talk to him. And you know what? Everybody's just another guy. All these people sitting on thrones, that's all bullshit.
I'm glad you said that. What quality in looking at other people then, in other disciples, you know, ex-disciples or whatever else, what quality do you like the most in people?
Sincerity. Openness, honesty, telling it like it is, and stop playing games and pretending, pretending something is that isn't. So just, you know, openness, honesty, transparency. Tell it like it is. That's all. You know, I went to see Gangaji, and I'm not a big Gangaji fan, but but she said something that rang a bell. She says, "Just tell the truth. That's all. Tell the truth." You know, it may not be, you know, your truth may not be another person's truth, but tell your own truth. That's all. What's true for you? If you really believe Guru was the Kalki avatar, like Matthias, fine. That's your truth. Okay, you're sincere. I appreciate that. I just don't appreciate bullshit, hypocrisy, deception, and stuff like that. But what I love about the disciples and the ex-disciples is that, you know, they're sincere, they're open, they're honest. A lot of them.
And now that you're involved with, you know, this this Facebook group and really these interviews and all the rest of the things that you're doing, what do you feel is our role for the ex-disciples and people that are perhaps thinking about getting out, and also what do you think of our role for disciples that have got out? You know, like I'm thinking of, you know, Bidiko and some of these people that have got out, and how are we going to support them?
I think that's the main thing. You kind of broke up there, but I think I got your thing. Let me take off my sweater. It's getting hot. You know what? I think that's the main thing. This is why I maintain that group on Yahoo groups, and why I'm participating. Here's the main thing. There are people who are left the center and who have a hard time adjusting. That's a natural thing. I had a very hard time adjusting, like everybody else. And there are also people in the center who may be thinking of leaving and have their doubts, but they're afraid because, let's face it, the Guru said, if you leave the center, you're going to get raped. You're going to get cancer. The hostile forces are going to get you. He even told Pujani, you leave the center, the Supreme will never love you again. And she told me that she had to deal with several years of therapy just to get over that one. So there are people who are like, in doubt. So what the main thing for me is like to be here as a witness to say, hey, don't worry, come on out, and everything is going to be fine. Yeah, life is the way it is. There's a lot of horrendous things going on. It's going to be up and down. But anyway, but really, at least you can live a sincere, authentic life, and there's support out here. And, in spite of everything, I think life is great, but I know there's stuff going on that's horrendous every day. I read the news a little bit on the internet, but no, the hostile forces are not wait. It's like when you're a Christian. I was a Christian too, and like the devil is behind every tree waiting to snag you. Well, it's the hostile forces are waiting to snag. No, it's not like that. So, and also, if disciples come out there, support. What I want to do, part of what I want to do in my life is support ex-disciples, in having better, happier, more fulfilled lives. And I'm happy that I'm seeing ways of doing that. Ways are opening up. So that's what I think the main thing is for me, is to take my experience and use it for supporting other people.
And I mean, you mentioned earlier about Tarak, that Tarak told you, and Tarak would never lie to you, and you completely trust him, and if he tells you it's true, it's true. What do we do with people that are in, but perhaps don't have that person they can trust right now? They've just got to work through it, I guess, or work through a process. What do you feel about that?
Well, I think that the Facebook group, the alumni group, is serving a great purpose. Hats off to Yogaloy, not only for his blog, but for that the disciple group he started on Facebook, because that's a great area for people to plug into, and they can just, I know I've said different things, but they can just hang out there and get there, see what's going on, and get comfortable. But I think it's good to have somebody you trust, like, as I say, somebody, if you can connect with somebody who you trust and who you can rely on. But I don't know. I think the Facebook group is a great support for people.
I would agree. Yeah, look, to me, I think it's the more information that's out there, the better it will be for everybody. Evie's also asked you, she wants to say, if you were to lead a meditation class, what would you want people to feel at the end of it?
Well, you know, it's interesting because right now I'm taking a course which involves a lot of meditation. I'm halfway through it. I'm not in a position to lead anything right now in terms of meditation, but I might be at some point. But to get to Beatika's question, what I would want them to feel more than anything else would be confidence in themselves. Like, hey, I don't have to rely on any outside authority, any guru, any teacher. I've got something within me that I can tap into through meditation. Not only meditation, but meditation. I'm finding out all of a sudden I'm a big meditation fan. I never didn't sit in the center. I didn't meditate, but now I'm finding meditation to be very effective. And I would say it's given me a lot of confidence and assurance. So I would say, look, if what I'd want, the answer to the question is this. What I would want to have achieved would be for people to feel like, hey, I'm contacting my own inner strength, my own inner self, my own inner whatever, and that's what I'm going to go with. Not somebody else's. Not somebody else's. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, can I finish with what do you feel your life has been about so far, and what do you want it to be about in the future?
What my life has been about so far has been two things. Number one, my life has been about seeking my whole life. Now, it's not only about seeking, but it's about finding. Okay, now that there's a corner that has been turned. So in other words, seeking, sure. Seeking may never stop. I love seeking. I love seeking. But also finding is happening. And so I'm in that process now. I'm finding. It's really great. And what my life is, what I want my life to be about is about service to other people. But service in a specific way. In this way, because I've been in the center and come up from that whole disciple thing, I'd like to serve other disciples and ex-disciples, getting out from underneath this whole thing of like, oh, my fate is in Guru's hands. Well, no, it's not in Guru's hands. I'm sorry. Your fate is in your own hands. And that's what I want to do, promote that. And not, because I know people out there, they're scared. They're afraid. Oh, Guru can curse them. That's why I think a lot of people don't speak up, because they're afraid that, Guru's going to get me from the inner world. And to me, that's such garbage. And what I want to do is, dispel all these myths and all these superstitions and all these silly magical thinking and, I don't know, dumb stuff. Silly, like Guru say, silly, oi, silly. Well, that whole thing is silly. Guru doesn't have any power over you. That's ridiculous. But you're giving him the power. You're giving him the power. That's the problem. So anyway, that's my life is about dispelling the myths and establishing righteousness, like Krishna. I took incarnation now. I am not the Kalki avatar. No, please, no.
Swadhin, can I just finish by saying I really enjoyed the conversation, really enjoyed the interview, and I hope you got everything asked that you wanted asked, and I know that I really enjoyed the process, and I love this whole idea of service. I think that's you. You're the man that can really connect with people. People feel a connection with you, and you really do connect with people really easily. I can see it. So, it's so your fundamental nature, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and I feel incredibly blessed. In spite of all my bad habits and stuff, and listen. Thank you. I mean, this has been great. I mean, I love interviewing people. I want to interview Tarak next, and then we have Paul Strom, and we've got Guillem, and when we got Byron Black, and I want to interview you, and I want to interview everybody. Beathika, I want to interview everybody. But when people are ready, they'll come forward. and love the whole thing. I want this to be an ongoing thing. Thank you so much for doing this. I love talking, and I love talking about myself. No, and I love talking. I love talking about everything. But listen, thanks, Sunirmalya. Thank you.
Thanks, Swadhin. Really nice. Really lovely to have this conversation. And I feel really blessed. Thank you.
I feel blessed too. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we done?
We're done, brother. Thank you.
Okay, brother. Okay, brother.